My name is Ryhan. I am a Singaporean and I've been living in Japan for the last 5 years. I'm currently enrolled as a PhD student at Kyoto University's Graduate School of Agriculture, and I went on a wild foraging workshop with some of my peers. I guess you would call it an excursion to the north of Kyoto Prefecture in Ohara to do some wild foraging with Sansai Bakabon, who is this well-renowned local forager. Sansai Bakabon-san's personality, you can tell that he loves what he's doing and he has fun doing what he does. But I think it was most evident when he was demonstrating to us how to forage, because he went into the river without hesitation. He took off, I think he was wearing boots, but he took off his boots, rolled up his slacks and just started wading in the river. And he started foraging plants from both sides of the riverbank. And for a moment, he actually even went upstream and then back downstream, and almost in a very childlike manner, excitedly showing us whatever he picked up. And I think one of the plants that we foraged was called the lemon egoma, which is a type of like perilla leaf. So he said that only the ladies should try it because it tastes like hatskoi, like your first love, which I thought was, when I tasted it on the day itself. I was like, oh yeah, it does, in a very weird way, remind me of my first love, I suppose. So it's interesting to see food being equated to those, like, I guess, more complex emotions. There was also one, I think it was an herb that he foraged, which apparently can be used to treat like if you have itchy spots, and he just kind of placed it on his face and he left it there throughout the rest of the foraging trip, which was very adorable and very youthful, which also kind of, I think, infected the way the participants felt about foraging. Like the whole experience of it is something that should be enjoyed from start to finish. And after the riverbank, we kind of walked back towards the community center, and along the way we were walking along like this stretch of rice paddy fields, and Sansai Bakabon would just stop, pick up something and explain to us what it was, which was a very interactive way of, I guess, reassessing how you look at your environment. He reassured us that you don't have to memorize the names of all the wild plants being foraged, as long as you keep like tasting it and eating it, and you build a kind of like memory bank for your taste buds. At some point down the road, when you've eaten something and you eat it again, you kind of recollect how that vegetable tastes. And I thought that was it was a very poetic way, I suppose, to look at edible plants and just eating in general.
水と空気大事って言いましたけども、その次大事なものは僕はアートだと思ってます。歌って踊ったり絵を描いたりいいものを見たり楽しいじゃないですか。だから楽しむことが大事。だから植物だってそうなんですよね。だからそれが大事かなと僕は思います。
So there were two teams. One team helped with the cooking and another helped with, I guess, what Sansai Bakabon-san called the tasting. He basically introduced to us like this wide array of vegetables, fruits, flowers, berries, nuts that he had foraged and that could be tasted. So some of the more unique flavors, it's hard to explain. Like, it's not like eating grass, but it tastes very fresh in a way that I suppose could only happen if you forage this plant on the day itself. Some of the wild plants and herbs also had a very astringent kind of sour taste to it. It almost felt as if you were drinking medicinal or traditional tea. The main takeaway I feel would be to just be more appreciative of wildlife. They were discussing how Ohara actually isn't that far away from Kyoto city, so it could be considered urban foraging, which was an interesting way to look at the whole experience. So that also taught me to be more observant of the greenery growing around me. I think personally for me, growing up from Southeast Asia and traveling a lot of Southeast Asian countries, foraging and eating wild plants is not like a very new concept, but it was interesting to see how, despite where you grow up around the world, there is still that practice of foraging, which all these people from different countries are trying to work together and preserve, which I thought was very beautiful in its own way. I think the wild foraging workshop was an eye-opening experience and has definitely changed how I view food, as well as how I can utilize the art of foraging and my knowledge on wild vegetables to connect with people from different places.